Welcome to Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen, along with my co-host Michael Doherty. We actually call him the Silver Fox. And if you're watching us, you would understand why we say that. In fact, aren't we on Facebook Live now?
We are on Facebook Live, so...
Explain that.
All they have to do, we're live on Facebook. So what happens is we have a camera here, and they're actually going to be switching between two live cameras.
Right.
And all they have to do is go to KHTS AM 1220's Facebook page.
And there we be.
There we be.
Hey,
live and in color.
That's pretty cool, huh?
It's very cool.
Very, very cool.
So we just have to make sure that we don't break it or anything.
No, we can't do that, Mike. That would be really bad.
It would be bad. So if you're watching us, hello there.
Hey there. Hey, you know what? It's New Year's. It's New Year. It's a new year.
We haven't been here since actually before Christmas was our last
I'm telling you,
show.
it's been, 3 weeks since we've been on the air, which is, that's the longest I think it's ever been.
Is it? Well, it feels like it's been forever.
Well, I sure hope everybody had a great holiday and that the new year is very prosperous and wonderful.
There you go.
You know, I mean, it's just a great thing. And Families in Action is brought to you by KHTS, which we appreciate. We've been on the air now how many years?
13, Cary, going on 14.
Wow.
My.
Isn't that a long time?
And you know, Carl, one of the owners here, was talking to me one day, and he said, every time I go out from the station and go someplace, someone stops me and says that Families in Action made a difference in my life or turned my life around or saved my life. That's big.
Well, it's actually pretty awesome. We've been actually in this valley now for over a quarter of a century, and we're doing groups and counseling and assemblies and radio shows and TV stuff and most of all, Psych Hospital, Everett Henry Mayo, and a lot of drug rehabilitation centers, and the people that we work with. Mm-hmm. A lot of these people, I mean, they're seriously broken.
They sure are.
And when they get to us, it really is a matter of life and death. It's not a joke.
And we were full in the behavioral health unit today.
Yeah. Full. So if you really think about, let's just talk to behavioral health just for a moment. It's at Henry Mayo. It's open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. We never close. And there's only 3 or 4 ways to get in there, Mike.
Just 3.
Well, there's borderline other ways.
There's borderline, okay.
Yeah, but the top 3 is you got to really be suicidal with a plan or attempted suicide.
Right. You
got to be homicidal with a plan.
Right. And let me jump in here for just a quick second. If somebody is saying, what does that mean, a plan? Well, the more specific a suicide threat is, the more credible it is. So if somebody just gets upset and says, I should just kill myself. Right. Well, that's not a good thing, but if somebody said, I'm going to kill myself and I have a gun that I'm going to use to do that, or I'm going to use a knife. If somebody said, I'm going to jump off the Eiffel Tower, well, that would work, but you'd have to go to Paris first. So it has to be a credible threat.
Exactly. So,
and the third thing is
gravely disabled.
Which, of course, people get a little confused about with that as well.
Right, but really what that means is you're not able to take care of yourself.
Right. You can't get through the day without some help.
And whatever it is, it could be psychosis. It could just be depression that just has got you so down you can't get out of bed. And everybody says during the holidays, you guys explode, right? And in drug rehabs too. And the answer is no.
Right.
We don't.
It's odd, isn't it? But you'd think it would, but it doesn't.
Nobody wants to go to a drug rehabilitation center or an alcohol rehabilitation center or a psychiatric facility during the holidays. When do they go? After the holidays.
Right.
When all those expectations flunked and they're feeling really, really down and depressed, that's when people go. Mm-hmm. Or the New Year's resolutions, I'm not going to drink anymore, that kind of thing. Then people go swarming into programs.
And they can hold it together for a while during the holiday period, and then it just falls apart about a week or two after.
Yeah, they can hold it together, or they're just such a mess, but they're just going to push it. And we have a lot of people that called us at Action. They wanted to go into rehab. But everybody the same thing. I want to wait to the first for a few reasons. Number one, they don't want to leave their family. Yeah. And there's another reason too, insurance deductibles. If they go in today and they have to pay a deductible on the first, they have to pay another one. So there's so many reasons that keep people from going into treatment. But that being said, it's January.
Yeah.
And there's not many more reasons anymore.
And here's the good news. The good news is you have a place for people to go that have a drug or alcohol problem.
Right.
And we have a place here in Santa Clarita for people to go that have behavioral health issues.
And I want to talk about the behavioral health issues. Everybody knows Action's here, and we have drug rehabilitation centers, and where we've got outpatient, residentials, and you name it. But I really want to push, we have a crisis in this country too. I mean, obviously there's an epidemic right now with opiates.
Sure
There's
is.
also an epidemic right now with suicide. Mm-hmm. We have more suicides than ever before.
Yeah. We sadly just had one here recently.
In Santa Clarita.
In Santa Clarita, right?
Yes, we have many here in Santa Clarita, and I guess the reason I'm bringing that up is because when this happens, usually is January, February, after holidays. And what I guess the message that I want to give is there's nothing worth dying for. Well, and I used to say that. I really believe that I would probably change that. I would die for my children, clearly. That's just the only thing in the world that I could think of that's worth dying for. That being said, there's really nothing worth dying for. Anything can get better. I mean, whatever it is we're going through, unless it's some kind of terminal thing, can get better. So it's just you got to kind of want it to. And I was talking to somebody on our behavioral health unit on Friday that made a serious suicide attempt. I mean, really serious, had to be brought back to life, was in ICU and all that, and had a couple weeks down already. And we were talking, and this person said to me, gosh, I'm sure glad I didn't die. And I said, wait a minute, that was about as serious as an attempt as they get. And this person said to me, I just didn't want to hurt anymore. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's really where it's at. I don't believe many of these people that try to kill themselves really want to die. I believe they just don't want to hurt anymore. And that's for 30-something years of dealing with people. And I hear the same thing over again. Thank God I didn't die. I just didn't want to hurt anymore, and I didn't know how to get rid of the pain. And I guess our message to you is, people say, I mean, there's things that happen in life that pain doesn't go away. It's always going to be there, but it becomes easier to deal with. Mm-hmm. And there's people out there and places out there and things out there that can help you get through whatever it is so that you can live a good, productive, happy life.
Right.
And just so for everyone know, the Henry Mayo thing it's open 24 hours a day. Every day. It's never closed. Walk into the ER if you're feeling that bad and just say help.
Right. And you'll be assessed both medically and mentally.
Both medically and
both.
mentally, because a lot of times there could be some medical stuff going on too, but they will do a full assessment, and you will be in a safe place, and you will be around doctors and nurses and social workers and therapists and counselors that'll be able to help.
And Cary,
I'll be there
and
too.
me,
and you'll
We're
be there.
Yeah. Smiling faces.
Exactly. So that's 24 hours a day, and if you're just waking up from a new year, an old year binge, and you just know, hey, it's time. There's always it's time to get sober. Then it's probably time to get sober, and you can always give us a call at Action at 800-367-8336, and if we can't help you, we will find help for
Give
you.
them that number one more time,
It's
Cary.
800-367-8336. So there's no reason anymore.
Wow. Hey, today we're going to talk about something that is, I think, wonderful. If you're listening out there and you haven't heard this before, or if you have, you need to pay specific attention today. You're going to be happy with this. The Parents' Bill of Rights.
We really have rights?
Yeah. The parents have rights.
We do.
12 things we're going to look at here, Cary.
This Parents' Bill of Rights was actually written by parents and children.
Yeah.
It's been around now for about, that I know of, almost 30 years I've been doing it. So I can't even tell you exactly who wrote it because it says author unknown, but I do know it was kids and parents in a tough love group that we were running years ago.
And I think Stephanie Weiss had quite a lot to do with it.
She had some, that was even before her.
Ah.
Yes, Stephanie Weiss has a lot to do with it. Lots of stuff, but this was not one of them.
Well, if you're wrong, she'll call up.
I know. Love you, Steph. You can call anyways.
Well, let me just set this up really quickly. Many families find themselves in a stormy situations. where their adolescent goes through a difficult period of development. These crises are often accompanied by rebellion, drug and alcohol abuse and dependency, poor communication, low self-esteem, disrespect for authority, lack of motivation, academic problems, and conflicts associated with divorce, death, peer pressure, and the stress and strains associated with just living in today's society. There are no bad kids. However, there are kids who make bad decisions.
And I really believe that. I mean, I really believe that all kids are good. But when they get caught up in some of the behaviors and make bad choices, everybody's in trouble. So if we can help kids make better choices, everybody wins.
That's a fact. Now, again, this is the Parents' Bill of Rights. Here's the first one.
I might stop you in the middle of them.
I know you
when
will.
We have to discuss some of these things.
I know that. You have the right not to explain your behavior. A trap many parents fall into is trying to explain the logic of their decisions to their child.
Hold on. You have a 15-year-old, let's say, right, or a 16-year-old, or a 14-year-old, or a 17-year-old that wants to go to this party, and you know it's not a good thing to do, and you want to get into a whole debate over why he shouldn't or she shouldn't. Who's going to win that debate?
Well, if you get into a debate, they'll just try to wear you down.
Nobody's going to win.
No.
I mean, no matter what happens, even if they don't go, at the end of this debate, people are going to be angry.
Right.
So you can't really explain logic to a teenager when that part of the brain doesn't work and they want to do what they want to do. Mm-hmm. So the answer is...
Well, let me continue with what this said. This seldom works because your child will either ignore the logic or argue you into exhaustion and compliance with their desires. If you make a decision, you do not have to explain it. Now, I just want to... I brought this up once before, but some years back, CBS's program 60 Minutes,
right.
They did a whole segment on this child who was just, I mean, you have to say he was a flaming brat. I don't remember the age, but he was terrible. He wouldn't do anything his parents. He was anti-everything. And they actually sat down with this boy without his mom, and they asked him, "Why are you doing this?" And his answer was simple. He said, "Because I can get away with it." So they took the mom in a room later and they showed her this piece of video and they said, take a look at what your child had to say. And the mom was actually surprised. But she got together with somebody, they helped her turn it around, and that child was a different person.
Mm-hmm. Kids do what they can get away with. People do what they can get away with. And when do people change? Here's the answer to that. When I keep hearing people say when they hit bottom, if we want to wait for kids especially to hit bottom, we're going to go to a lot of funerals. So I believe we can pull the bottom up. Kids change when they have to. Kids change when they have to. Again, kids change when they have to. When the consequence of their actions or the threat of the action outweighs the payoff, the fun they think they're having. Problem is, Mike, I've been doing this for many years, as you know, and when I'm dealing with kids and I say, your parents are, and they go, my parents aren't going to do nothing. And that's what I hear over and over again.
I've heard
they
that.
make false threats. They're going to send me to rehab. They're going to ground me for a year, and after an hour, get out of the house. So there's so many different things. We have to, one thing, if you learn anything out of this show today, and all these Bill of Rights, consistency is number one.
Big time.
And number two, which is really consistency, if you say it, mean it.
Oh, big time.
If you can't follow through when you're dealing with your teenager, don't threaten it.
And lots of parents don't believe this, but you can read this. I mean, this has been written by people that know what this issue is. And that is that a child, if given the opportunity, will push their parents, in the gutter and walk over them to get what they want if they think they can get away with that.
You know, I have kids too. I have parents that come to our groups, and let's put it to you this way. If you have an adolescent that's out of control, failing at school, using drugs, fighting with mom and dad, number one, it's impossible for that child to be happy. They can fake it all they want, but when they lay down at night, they're pretty miserable. It's also impossible for the parents to be happy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we get parents and there's so much going on in the home, and I mean, dad's yelling at mom, "You're too tough." Mom's yelling at dad, "You're too soft."
Or vice
Everybody's
versa.
fighting. Everybody's self-esteem is hurting. They're sleeping in other rooms, ready to divorce. So it's really kind of crazy. That's why there's Denny's. I believe that. Open 24 hours a day. If you're going to have a debate about your child, don't do it in front of your child. It's not a good idea.
No, never do that.
Yeah, exactly. But the reality is you don't have to explain logic to your kid. Now, some of you have this great kids. We all have great kids. But some of you have this kid say, "Mom, can I go to a party? Everyone's going to be using drugs. It's really going to be fun." You go, "Is that a good idea?" "No, Mom, I know." But most kids aren't like that. They're going to want to argue you until you say, "Okay." So it's one of those kind of things you don't have to. You don't have to even explain it. The answer is no. Why? Because I said so.
So the number one parent's Bill of Rights is you have the right not to explain your behavior as a parent. Number two, as a parent, you have the right to change your mind.
Really?
Although it is desirable to be consistent, there are times when circumstances change. Your child may appeal to the consistency rule by saying, "But you said..." Well, this is not the time for lengthy justifications. Just clearly state your current position.
Or pull out your Bill of Rights and say, "See number one." Not open for negotiation. But a lot of times that happens. I mean, they work on us when we just wake up. Then we're saying, "Well, wait a minute, that doesn't sound really good or safe." Or they call us when we're at work and they just kind of work you over. I mean, whatever the reason is. But hey, we are our kids' parents. We're not their friends. They have enough friends. We need to be their parent, and if we thinking something through and it doesn't sound good, safe, then we have a right to change our mind, period.
Certainly, my wife and I did that, and our kids said the same thing, "But you said," and we just sit them down and we just say, "We've thought about it."
No, it's not fair. If they want fair, Mike, if they want fair, they can go to Pomona.
Right.
Or LA,
Just
wherever the fair is, right.
No, we've changed our minds about this. We've reconsidered this, and this is what we're going to do now.
Right.
It's called get over it.
That's right. It's called being a parent.
Being a parent. Number three, you have the right to express your feelings. You may have been told that you should not get angry or not tell your child that you love them in public.
Let's pick this one apart, okay?
Okay.
You may have been told that you shouldn't be angry. A lot of parents actually believe they're not really even allowed to get pissed off. Well, that's simply not true. Anger is a normal emotion, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So how do we deal with it, and when is it inappropriate? Anger is appropriate if dealt with correctly.
Right.
If dealt with incorrectly, it's inappropriate, obviously. You don't want to yell and scream.
And tear the house apart.
And make threats or abuse your kid. And those are things that don't work. Violence, we know, don't work. Spankings don't really work once they hit over 2. It's like you're whacking the butt might work when they're 1. When they're 2 or 3. But when they're 16, you don't want to spank anybody.
Not hardly.
No, but I was doing a group it was in Glendale. I was talking about you don't spank kids at a certain age, and this father decided to spank his little 13-year-old girl, and she went to school, pulled her pants down and spanked her, and she told her friend, which told the nurse, which told the school, and all of a sudden children's services, and it was a mess at best. He went to jail. He had to go to court. It was pretty bad. So there's certain things you just don't want to do, but you're allowed to get angry. And let's say we have a trash can, and we keep throwing trash in it, and we don't empty it. What happens?
It spills over.
What do you think happens to us if we keep getting angry, we keep getting our feelings hurt, whatever it is, and we don't deal appropriately with our feelings?
It's going to spill over.
It's going to spill over somewhere. We're going to get sick. We're going to drink too much, eat too much, get violent, get depressed, get sick. Whatever the deal is, you have to appropriately deal with your feelings.
Now, the next one, I know you have a story to go with this one, Cary.
I do.
You have the right to express your feelings. Not to tell your child that you love them in public.
See, that's really pretty sad.
It is.
No, really, if you think about it, I get so many people that come to our groups that says I can't talk to my kid, okay? I can't tell my kid I love them. They're embarrassed. And it's like, wait a minute. Who died and made a law saying when a kid hits 12, you can't be affectionate to them anymore in public? Or when they're 13, you can't say I love you in front of their friends? Who came up with this rule? I mean, seriously.
I don't know. Well, whoever
it seems to be out there.
I hear you.
But I talk a lot of tough love stuff, and I'll never forget. all through my kids growing up, and I got 3, I would go to work at nights, run my groups, come home, lay down with each kid individually, tell them I love them, stay there for at least a couple minutes if they were awake or not. And then I'd go to sleep. Most of the time they wake up and say, I love you too, Dad. So one day I was taking one of my children, I won't mention his name, sorry, Scott. I was taking him to school, sorry, and he gets out of the car, and this was the old Bouquet Canyons elementary school, right? And you pull down, it's closed now, you pull down that street, and there is a cul-de-sac. And you'd always have the principal, the crossing guard, and a million parents and kids dropping their kids off. So he gets out of the car, and I look at him, I said, I love you. And he says, I love you, Dad. And he walks away, and that night I'm laying in bed with him, and he says, hey, Dad, do me a favor. And I said, what's that? He says, don't do that. I said, don't do what? And he says, don't say you love me in front of my friends. It's a little embarrassing. And I went, oh, I'm sorry. And I went into bed, and I feel real bad. And I laid there and tossed and turned and decided I'd drive him to school the next day, and I did. And he gets out of the car, and he looked at me. I'll never forget his look, like, are you gonna? And I went, no. And he walks past the principal, and he walks past the crossing guard, and there's everybody there, and I'm pounding on my horn, going, Scotty! And everybody's looking. And I went, I love you. And you should have seen that poor kid's face. And I got in the car and said, gotcha, sucker. And I drove home. And that day I picked him up. And he ran up, gave me a hug and a kiss, and said, Dad, you can say you love me whenever you want. I said, I'm going to anyways. And this is a message to all parents out there. Why in the world would you not tell your kid that you love them?
Right.
Why in the world would you not be embarrassed or ashamed to say that in front of people? And I hear that every Tuesday night when I open my groups up at the end. I said, anybody want to say something? Parents said, I was just a little too embarrassed to pull my kid out. How can anyone be too embarrassed to say, I love you to their mom, dad, girlfriend, boyfriend, son, daughter?
Now, I've told you this story, and I'll mention it really quickly. Charlie Sheen, the actor, his sons, Emilio Estevez and Charles, they had a habit of their dad would give them a kiss goodbye, even when they were adults.
Right.
And when they were in high school, they said one of their friends saw that and said, you still let your dad kiss you? And their response was, yeah, you going to make something of it? What's the big deal? So we love our dad. Why can't we do that?
Why in the world would somebody be embarrassed to kiss their father or their kid at any age?
Yeah, no. My son and I did the same thing. It wasn't anything wrong with that. No. And my son, anybody said anything to him, he said, hey, I love my dad. We're pals, you know?
End the subject.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Is it time to take a break? I think it is.
Is it time to take a break? It looks like it's time to take a break. This is Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We'll be right back with the Bill of Rights.